intents and purposes, so much to actually get into around this. So that being said, we're going to kind of just, I guess, get right into it. So, next level, fulfilling our potential. We don't really have any idea of what our human potential is, and so we're going to leverage your individual strengths. We're going to get into those, help you discover those, and to help you understand how your mind works. Okay. Okay. So anyway, yeah, get the adrenaline flowing first thing on a Monday morning, right? And hopefully, Victorious Living Group and our broadcast every Monday going to get your week started off really good. So let's dig in and first of all understand how our mind works. What you're looking at there, of course, is an iceberg, right? And the iceberg there represents your mind. It's an amazing statistic, but 95% of what we do behaviorally, on average, 95% comes out of the subconscious mind. And I don't know about you, but that's kind of scary when I think about that. It's, seriously. So my personal goal is to up that percentage a bit. And what my coaching practice and neurolinguistic programming. Just to kind of give you a little bit of my credentials, I am a certified hypnotherapist, certified master practitioner in neurolinguistic programming. And as I work with people, it's all about learning how your mind operates so you can run your own mind and not let other people run it for you, not let other circumstances run it for you, but be intentional in your living. The Victorious Living tagline, we're all about, I am Charles Eduardo's, I am all about empowering and releasing human potential. And we do that through a heightened self-awareness, learning more about what's going on inside our mind, how it happens, how we end up creating the life that we experience. And that comes out of our internal maps of reality. Everybody has their own internal map of reality. Whether you're aware of it or not is another thing, but you have one. You may not be aware of it, but you've got one, and we'll get into that a little bit. So the part up above the water, of course, is the conscious mind, and that constitutes approximately 10 to 12% of our total mind. And then, of course, beneath that, beneath the water line, there is the subconscious mind, which constitutes 88 to 90% of our total conscious mind. Now, subconscious mind includes the sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, the autonomic system. There's certain things that our body automatically does that we don't have to be thinking about in order. Thank God we don't have to think about our blood circulating for our blood to actually circulate through our body. So we don't have to consciously think about breathing. We don't have to consciously think about digesting our food. So many things that our body does. We don't have to think about regulating our body temperature. These things happen for us automatically, and that's part of what goes on in the subconscious mind. So then we have this critical mind, which is partially in the conscious area of mind, and the other part's down in the subconscious. The conscious mind is the part of our mind that was developed between our birth and approximately 8 or 9 years of age. And that, of course, is influenced by our culture, the culture that we grew up in, our country culture, the subcultures here, for those in the United States of America, for those in Europe. There's a difference between the French culture and the culture in the UK. There are nuances that are different to Germany and Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway, Finland, different parts of the world. Of course, Turkey has a different culture. And within each of those major cultures, there are subcultures. Um, I happen to be Midwestern United States of America, and I am a person of color, mixed albeit, but a person of color, which brings a whole different nuance as well. There is influence from the Latino culture. There's so all of these things get developed into that critical mind, which is basically guided by our primary caregivers, our primary, secondary caregivers. We pick up some things in the early portions of our education, and that critical mind is essentially established by approximately 8 or 9 years of age. But that doesn't mean it's done, because, again, it gets nuanced by the things that happen. And as we get into the internal map of reality and looking at how that works, you'll see. And even today, things will influence us, but they're always kind of mirrored back to earlier experiences and our memories of those experiences and the meaning frames that we put around those things. Those things happen, but then what meaning? What is the neurosemantic, the meaning that we attach to it? And do those meanings shift? Pretty much, I would say everything gets nuanced to some degree or another. But again, part of the whole idea here is for that to be, as much as possible, conscious to us, that we are aware of what's going on. We are aware of the nuances that may be ensuing. So then we start to run our mind. You saw in our intro there, it's not what happens to you, but how you, operative word, choose to respond. That there's always choices. Oftentimes we feel like we don't have any choices, but we always, always, always have a choice. And I challenge you for the coming week, notice that. Think about that as things happen in your life. Keep that in your mind. I always have a choice. And see how that maybe will empower you a little bit more. But notice what happens when you keep the thought in mind that I always have choices. And talk to me about that. Text in, message me here on Facebook. Let me know how that works for you. And part of what we want to do is encourage the spirit of experimentation for you, because there is no cookie cutter approach. There is no just one way fits all. You have to find out how your particular map operates, your internal map, which we're going to get into here in a bit. Figure out how that map works, and then work it, and let it work for you. Does that make sense? I sure hope so. But please message me. Let's interact here. Let me know what's going on for you, how some of these things that we share here work for you. Play with them yourself and see what's going to make a difference for you and where you can get the most for your experimentation. See what's going to make the difference in your life. I believe it was the Buddha that said, all that I am is the result of what I have thought. Now, in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, we have this thing: you don't think and feel. You think, feel. Every thought has an associated feeling, and every feeling has an associated thought. Even to the extent where sometimes you may feel something and, it's like you can't even put it into words. It defies languaging. But you're feeling, but there is thought associated with it. You may be thinking something. If you think about, for those of you that maybe have um, a little one in your life, or you can remember when you're, in my case, my uh, 49-year-old daughter, remember when she was a little one, and it just automatic. The feeling that comes with that is joy, and happiness. I smile, I think about her as a little girl, and um, some of the memories that I have there that just bless me. I'll share with you one of them, because she couldn't say kitty, so it came out deedledee. And that just always kind of puts a smile on my face. And you think about little ones and how they learn how to language, how they learn how to properly call things by their right name and their right pronunciations. But then in our family, in our immediate family culture, Deedledee became the new name for cat. So within our family, if you say Deedledee, everybody knows you're talking about a cat. Okay. Now people on the outside look and say, those people are a little strange. But you get my meaning. And every family has some kind of a story like that, or some type of an instance like that. So these are things that when we start to, again, understand how it works from the standpoint of our internal map of reality, how our thinking pretty much determines who we are and what we become, how we think, feel about certain things. I know within the Latino, African American culture, which has spilled over now, but there's the expression, I ain't going there with you, and that's a good one. I'm not going where you want me to go mentally, emotionally. I'm just not going, not only physically, but I'm not going there. Okay. I'm not going to whatever unresourceful place you may be inviting me to. And my mom had this expression. She said, just because you got an invitation doesn't mean you have to go to the party. That's a good one, So, but we get invitations all the time, don't we? And some of them are fun invitations and we want to go, and many of them aren't. Hoping here at Victorious Living Group, our invitation is truly a party and a learning experience that we're going to make as much fun as possible. So let's dig into this internal map of reality, and we're going to broach it today. We probably won't be able to totally finish it. Well, we'll totally finish it, but then we'll come back next week and get a little bit more in depth, because we're going to do the program here for 30 minutes. I know some people are going to be getting ready for work and whatnot. Some people may already be at work. Some people don't have to go to work until later, but we'll let you figure that out. We'll just promise to be here at 8 o'clock on Monday mornings to get the week started. So here is kind of a representation of what your internal map of reality is all about, how it works. So first of all, imagine this is you, and that's your golden brain there. You're representing your mind. Um, Mind is something that's really kind of abstract. We see the seat of mind being in the brain, the physical brain, but you can't open up a person's body and find their mind. You can find their brain, and many things function out of the brain. But did you know that a very large portion of your physical heart is made up of neurons? I think that discovery actually came out of the Heart Math Institute. I know certainly they have nuanced that and brought more information around that. And interestingly enough, even in the Bible, it says, guard your heart with all diligence. And scientifically, the heart sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. Isn't that interesting? So, but we look at the brain as being kind of the seat of the mind, although we have even down in our gut. You know, what is our gut feeling? So, a lot of things are operating there, which again goes back to the think, feel, think. They are interconnected. So we have input, need input. Number 5, Alive. What was that? I forget the movie, but anyway, never mind me. We have visual input, of course. We have auditory input, things that we hear. We have kinesthetic input, things that we feel. This desk is solid, or, well, quantum physicists and the like would say, no, it's not really. Excuse me. So, oh my goodness. There we go. All right. My nose is starting to run on me just out of the blue. Go figure. So we have visual input. We have auditory input, things we hear. We have kinesthetic input, olfactory, things that we smell, gustatory, things that we taste. And oh my goodness, that grilled shrimp was so good yesterday. And then auditory digital. What is your internal dialogue? What are you saying to yourself? And that's a biggie for me and with clients that I work with, because sometimes we can be verbally abusive to ourselves all too often. And so, being your coach here, I'm going to tell you, stop it, stop it, stop it. Okay. Not good. Now, these are external things, external visual, external auditory, things kind of out there. Things out there that we feel, my computer here, my microphone, kinesthetic things that we can touch, olfactory things that we smell, mom's bread baking in the kitchen, whatever, the gustatory, the tastes. But then we also have an internal form of that when we remember. We have an internal remembrance. When I was talking about my daughter, in my mind's eye, I was seeing her again as a little girl. Okay. The auditory, I was hearing internally, representing the internal auditory sound of her saying deedle-dee. Okay. The kinesthetic and how I internally felt as I visually remembered and auditorily remembered these things, it brings about an internal kinesthetic, internal feeling, which tends to bring about, the internal emotion feeling. Same thing with the olfactory. We start talking about, that grilled shrimp that I had yesterday, and I can smell it again. I'm remembering the smell of it, but it's coming from internal. It's a representation. So this is why we call it the representational system, because we are representing these things at an internal in an internal way. Gustatory too, as I'm talking about the shrimp and smelling it, my mouth starts watering, saying, "Where's the shrimp? Come on," and then the auditory digital is the internal dialogue, as I've already stated. So all of this information coming in, but we can't handle it because there are millions of bits of information, literally, coming uh, into our bodies in any given moment. So we can only handle consciously 7 bits of information, plus or minus 2. So 5 on the low end and 9 on the high end. So what do we do with all the rest of it? Well, it gets deleted, distorted, or generalized. And again, we'll get into more detail about how that happens because time is of the essence and tick tock, tick tock. So, how do we filter? How do we go about filtering the information that's coming in? We do it through the meanings that we give to some things mean more than others. Some things we blow it off. It's not that important to us. And this is where many times conflicts come about because people are one person's meaning, it has more meaning for one person than it does the other. So automatically there you see conflicts come up out of that. Values, things that we value higher than others, our beliefs. Here's a question: what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about what you could potentially accomplish in the world? How has your critical mind limited you in what you believe that is really possible for you? And see, we can start to talk about how in certain cultures, these things are, that certain cultures have been conditioned to not expect that they can have much in life. Is that true? Not necessarily. Not if you determine that you want to, there are really no limitations. And let me say this, despite we don't live this, but there is only one race on the planet, and that is the human race. And within the human race, there are a variety of colors, there are a variety of nationalities, a variety of cultures, but ultimately, everybody is the same. Nobody is better than anybody else. But there are some people that get this idea that they think, well, we are special. We have that in America. We're Americans. We're special. Are we really any more special than anybody else on the planet? And I do feel very blessed to be an American citizen and everything, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily want to look down my nose at somebody that by their experience happened to be born in India or the UK or the Middle East somewhere. Hey, that's where they were born. And but for the grace of God, I could have been born there too. And I certainly would feel good about probably about my homeland wherever I was born. So that's a natural thing. And we get kind of upset sometimes at things within even here in America, there are things that we don't all necessarily agree on or think are good or bad. In neurolinguistic programming, we like to use the terms resourceful or not resourceful. And if it's good for one person, it should be good then for all people, and not good for me at the expense of others. And I hope that makes sense as well. So we have the beliefs, the language. What again are we languaging? How are we languaging? What are the words that we are using? Our memories. Excuse me. Our memories play on how we distort, how we delete, how we generalize. Our memories are attitude. And our attitude is something, again, that we are able to control. It is within our control to maintain a particular attitude. And that's not saying that there won't be times when we will be saddened by events that occur. but our overall attitude